This is Chicago's very own WGN News at 9.
Donald Trump is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to keep his name on the ballot in Colorado.
It's the latest appeal by Trump's legal team over the Constitution's 14th Amendment. WGN's Shannon Halligan here to break down what happens now.
Yeah, the issue has reached the High Court. If the Supreme Court takes the case, it would be the first time in American history that Supreme Court justices would rule on this provision.
Should former President Donald Trump be allowed on the 2024 presidential ballot? That question now goes to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Now, everyone is waiting to see if the United States Supreme Court agrees to even take the Colorado case.
WGN political analyst Paul Lisnick said the nation's highest court is likely to make a decision.
My guess is they pretty much have to. And the reason is because the challenge to Trump's name on ballots is starting to be different in various states. You can't have that. You need uniformity. It's a tough question, and that's the job of the Supreme Court.
Trump's legal team appealed a ruling in December by the Colorado Supreme Court. That marked the first time in history that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was used to bar a presidential contender from the ballot. The court found that Trump's role in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol disqualified him under the clause.
The U.S. Supreme Court isn't supposed to question the facts of the case that's brought up to them. They're supposed to accept facts as true. So once again, another challenge to the U.S. Supreme Court, that if the judges below have found that the former president was part of an insurrection, that's something they should be taking as fact and not questioning it, which is why it'll be interesting to see if they do that or find some other way around it.
Trump's appeal comes a day after his legal team asked the Maine Superior Court to review a ruling by Democratic Secretary of State Jenna Bellows that Trump cannot be on that state's ballot. All parties to the case in Colorado have urged the court to move quickly. Lawyers representing the Colorado plaintiffs are calling for a resolution by next month. The insurrection clause has never been used to disqualify someone from running for the White House. So how the justices would rule is not known.
I think that what they're going to do is find a procedural avenue or some other avenue to basically skip the language of the 14th Amendment and determine that Donald Trump's name must appear on the ballot.
Colorado's primary is March 5th, but ballots are printed after January 5th. The Iowa caucuses are less than 2 weeks away. Still not clear yet when or if the Supreme Court, though, will once again take up this case.
Thank you, Shannon.